Welcome back to this already the final segment of today's Price of Business, and I am your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. Got Chris Kidd here in the house. We're going to talk a little bit with him, with his guests as well, and great guests, man. I tell you, you've been racking up some good ones, and I know you've got a great waiting list of future ones as well.
Oh yeah, we've got quite a long line.
Yeah, it's pretty phenomenal. Chris Kidd does just a fabulous job of helping people when it comes to their financial pictures and understanding their financial futures, and he has a unique emphasis on those in the entertainment and sports area, and so that's why we like to do stories about the business side of sports. You can learn more about Chris Kidd at chriskidd, that's 2ds.com, chriskidd.com. You want to elaborate a little more about what you do and then introduce your guest?
Yeah, I guess real quick. Basically, I help people from, they come from all different areas, and anywhere from dealing with personal finances and learning to put together a budget so that they have they can finally have more money than month, learning how to get out of debt. And the two other things that I really focus on are entrepreneurship and investments. I believe everybody needs to have their own business in one form or another. And the investment side, I just believe that too many people are walking around without any actual knowledge about what they're doing. They're just taking somebody's advice. So I try to educate those who that I coach, whether it be a college student or a young family, a businessman, or a professional athlete, on how that they can better manage all those things.
Very good. Your guest.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Ready to introduce him, but my guest today is Steve Gera with Horizon Performance. He's a business development consultant and does some really, really cool work. From what I understand, I'll let him tell us a little bit more about it, and then we'll get into some of the stuff that he's doing on the sports side. Good to have you on, Steve.
Thank you. Thank you both for having me. I'm happy to be here. Yeah. So I guess best thing for me to do is tell you a little bit about myself. I've worked in the NFL for the past decade. Prior to that, I was in the Marine Corps, and throughout my time in the Marine Corps and then also in the NFL, I've always I've worked with a lot of different companies. A lot of different sports teams in a number of different facets, but blending what players are doing on the field with business and trying to help. Chris is just mentioning something right there about helping his clients understand entrepreneurship and investment, and that's something that when you can give a player in the NFL or even a player coming up to the NCAA. Information and just good advice on that. It helps, kind of open their aperture for living a well-lived life. And so I do a lot of work right now in the NCAA and then also with a number of different pro sports teams. But I spend a lot of my time also currently advising teams on integrating player and coach performance with business and how to properly navigate technology because, obviously, sports technology right now is just blowing up. And then I work a lot with sports technology companies, and I help those companies make things that matter. Mm-hmm. So I can go on and on about a lot of different things that I'm involved in right now, but I'm happy to be here and look forward to answering some of your questions.
So are you currently coaching?
So I do not currently coach on the field. So what I do right now, my last year coaching was 2014, and I was doing a little bit of work with a couple of different teams on the field as a consultant coach. Right now, I'm focusing a lot of my efforts on trying to bring technology to coaching on the field. Mm-hmm. It's a real unique time, I think, in the history of coaching because you're starting to see a lot of young coaches are starting to really grasp how technology can amplify their ability to work with their players. And I'm absolutely passionate about that and trying to help people understand how they can do that. The rapid changes that many front office and coaches are going through as far as technology goes, they just don't have the time or expertise to fully research those. So I've taken a step off the field in order to really grasp what's going on in that space so that I can then help coaches touch their players' lives and touch their performance just a little bit better.
Yeah, very good. Chris Kidd?
Yeah, Steve, I'm amazed at how technology's changed just in the sports world in the last few years. I mean, just a few years ago, you'd be watching a football game, and then the players would go to the sidelines after their series is over, and they go through little flip charts, pictures of the plays and stuff. And now they have iPads on the sideline, or the Microsoft Surface tablets. Are you involved in any of that stuff, or what's some of the technological things that you're working on, and can you say?
Yeah, so
he could tell us, but then he'd have to kill us. So don't do that. No, go ahead.
No, I'd only have to kill you if we talked about some of the work I do with Special Forces and NAS and some other companies that Horizon works with.
Yeah.
But the sports I can talk freely and openly about. So, but yeah, and you're right. It is about 5, maybe 6 years ago is when technology really started to touch the player and the coach, and it all started in content delivery. So taking the very simple, very first process was a very simple one. Taking the playbook, these big, huge 300-page playbooks, and distilling it all down into basically PDFs that you then can deliver via an iPad or a Microsoft Surface. And so I was actually with the San Diego Chargers, and we were one of the very first teams to go to fully digital content. And that kind of started to then, evolve into, additional like communication, talking between player coach, delivering video much faster, and in a way that was intuitive for the players that they just got and they understood. And so that was really the beginning of it all. And now you're starting to see, analytics, come into play. You're starting to see wearables, different big data tools. And then you're also starting to see some really cool things that are coming in, some advanced training systems, such as like brain training. You have virtual reality, augmented reality, so VR, AR. And, one of the projects I worked on this past year with an NFL team was putting in a simulator in their building for their quarterbacks and for their inside linebackers to begin with. And eventually, hopefully, that would blow out to additional position groups. But really focusing in on that quarterback position, because second-string and third-string quarterbacks in the NFL, they cannot get enough on-the-field reps. So how do you then get them enough brain training, enough actual training of looking at a field, looking at a defense, diagnosing what's happening in the middle of a play, and then making good decisions? And one of the things I've been passionate about for the last couple of years has been simulation and then VR, AR, and how you can use that with quarterbacks in order to train them up when we can't get them on the field, and we just can't get them enough reps. And so there's been some teams that are doing some really exciting things right now. There's one team in the NFL that actually has a simulator. And I think that with the rapid advancements in VR and AR, I think it's, we're within probably 2 or 3 years of, most teams in the NFL having some sort of simulator in their building where their quarterbacks, their second-string and third-string quarterbacks, can develop at a more rapid rate.
Now, are any of the college teams using any of this as well?
So the colleges really, the great thing about the NCAA is a lot of times they're actually the quickest to adopt any sort of technology. It's just, they don't. It's kind of a much more freer environment, I think. And so there are a few teams that are looking into this. Stanford is actually doing some unique work with VR right now. They're using an Oculus Rift, and they actually have a laboratory up there where they're doing some really interesting things. There are a couple other schools that are looking into the same type of simulator that I helped put in with an NFL team. The issue right now is that VR and AR, the technology is really great, and it's rapidly improving every single day, but it's still not quite where it needs to be. I mean, we're probably about 5 years away from really this Minority Report type interface, and so there's these baby steps in this iterative process. And so right now there's some easier things that you can do with players, and like just bare bones simulation is definitely one of those. But yeah, so colleges are definitely adopting it a little bit faster than the pros. Just as the players are developing at the NCAA and then being drafted into the NFL, I think a lot of the technologies are kind of following the same path.
Yeah, that's interesting. By the way, what's the best website for people to go to get more information?
So the best website for people to get really good information about Horizon Performance is just horizonperformance.com. I also work with a number of different companies. If people wanted to contact me personally, they could get a hold of me through stevegera.com. And I'd be happy to talk to anyone about, this rapid, this really great environment and how, sports and technology are just merging into this really fascinating ecosystem.
Chris?
Well, Steve, I wanted to ask one other thing as far as like dealing with players and stuff. What sort of things do you do dealing with players either individually or in groups, aside from the coach side, but what kind of work do you do there?
So what we do there is a lot of it is built around sitting down and figuring out what a player's purpose for the game is. All right, so we'll sit down and figure out what his purpose is, and then we can essentially create kind of like a campaign around the player that allows them to, it just really gives them kind of like a checklist of things that they have to do in order to achieve specific metrics. So how this works is we'll sit down with the player, we'll find out that the most important thing to a professional player is supporting for his 3 children. All right, and so we will then tease out what are the metrics that you need to achieve as an individual player in order to ensure that you get a second contract in the NFL. And then we'll drill down into what are the daily habits that you have to stick to and commit to on a day-to-day basis in order to make sure that happens. So that could be something as the day-to-day behaviors and habits could be something as simple as making sure that he does hot tub, cold tub, making sure that they stretch, making sure that they get massage, making sure that they go to the cryo chamber, making sure that they spend an additional 2 hours studying, making sure that they get a solid 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night. And when you lay it all out there for them like that, what we end up doing is we'll create either booklets or we'll create essentially just these one-page like kind of ad campaigns, and then we'll actually add in some digital video with it as well, kind of like a highlight, because who doesn't like watching themselves, going across the middle, making a big hit, or going across the middle and catching the ball and scoring a touchdown. And so we craft these campaigns around these players that help them engage with good behaviors and good, just performance metrics on a day-to-day basis. And so we've seen a lot of success with that, because with you leave goal setting and then drilling down that goal setting into an action plan, if you just leave it to the player, a lot of times they just take it for granted that they'll do it, that they'll actually commit to the behaviors on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, that's an important thing about having a coach, definitely, to keep you on track. I've got one other quick question for you, Steve.
And we got about 30 seconds left.
Do you go through the teams? Do they contract you out, or can you work directly with players, regardless of whether you're working with a specific team?
It's both. So it's both. I work with individual players, and then a lot of times teams will bring me in to help work with their coaches and their players. Both, yeah. Steve,
great stuff. And that's Steve Gera, Steve, S-T-E-V-E, Gera, Gera.com. Chris Kidd, you can reach him at chriskidd, CHRISKIDD.com. And thanks to both of you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
You bet. Do you want to remind the listener that the best content here can be found over there at usdatareview.com. While they're, like it on Facebook, follow it on Twitter. Have a great day and spend it right here on this station.